welcome to Sound Off with System One. I'm your host, Krista Kornchuk, and I'm here today with our panel of recruiting experts to speak with you about interview etiquette. Before we get started, here are a few words about System One. System One is a leading provider of specialized, highly technical outsourced services and workforce solutions to critical infrastructure, technology, life sciences, and government sectors, putting more than 650 employees and 9,000 contractors to work in the United States, Canada, and the UK. As you're tuning in today, please join us in the comments. Our marketing team will be monitoring them. Let us know where you're joining from and which industry you work in. And if you have any questions relevant to today's topics, please drop them in there as well. And I'm going to have our panel of experts introduce themselves. They're going to be sharing a hot job with you. You can view these hot jobs by scanning the QR code, or to view any other System One jobs, visit jobs.system1.com. Melissa, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa McNally. I'm a senior IT recruiter for ALTA IT Services. We're a System One company out of Washington, D.C. And the hottest job that I'm working on today is a Google AI architect for an automotive OEM in Auburn Hills, Michigan. It is an on-site position. If you might be interested yourself or know of somebody, feel free to contact me. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Losowitz, recruiting manager of Joulé's national accounts team. Our team focuses on contract staffing for positions within the life sciences field. Today, I'd like to highlight an exciting opportunity that we have with one of our global diagnostic clients in the Pleasanton, California area. This role is a contract level 1 or 2 scientist position and will be part of their purification and characterization team. They're looking for candidates with a bachelor's degree in chemistry or biochemistry with at least 2 to 5 years of experience, depending on the level. So if you're interested in learning more about this position, connect with me on LinkedIn. They are looking to interview and hire immediately.
Hi, everyone. My name is Afia. I recruit for ALTA IT. They're part of System One. And currently my hot job is an associate product manager. This is a really great role if you're trying to get your foot in the door as a product manager, senior product manager in the future. So you don't really need to have a lot of experience, just some business analyst experience or any type of analyst experience or anything in the technical field that shows that you're wanting to grow as a product manager in the future. So if you graduated recently and you have some internships, this is a great role to apply to. And it's remote. Sorry.
Love it. And again, please connect with our panel on LinkedIn if you're interested in any of these roles. Again, feel free to scan the QR code and visit jobs.system1.com. And without further ado, we're going to get started with our topic. If you have any questions related to today's topic, please drop them in the comments and we can add those in as well. Our first question is, how do you prepare for the toughest interview questions, and what are some common mistakes when preparing for an interview? Melissa, we'll start with you.
Sure. So truly the biggest red flag that we see and the common mistake is lack of preparation. In the back of your mind, you always think that you really know your background and you remember the job description, but when you're nervous and then the pressure's on, you may find yourself short for words. So I would always suggest reviewing your resume and really remembering all of your different positions, reviewing the company that you're interviewing with. Take a few minutes to research the interview team online, on LinkedIn specifically. Also check your team's connection and plan out your environment, what you're going to wear, making sure that your environment's ready to be seen either on camera or if you are traveling to the interview, maybe map it out the day ahead.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off of that, obviously you want to have some concrete answers prepared. Don't be afraid to prep for those questions in the mirror. Just, you want to make sure you're coming in confident. You want to make sure you're not going to stumble through your answers. I know nerves can get the best of everybody, but just taking those couple extra minutes to practice at home, just so that it comes off naturally and not rehearsed as well, that'll go a long way in the interviews.
These are some really great points. Another point that I like to make is don't assume that just because you came from a certain background, you don't have to put in the effort. I've seen that a lot. Some people that may come from certain types of schools or certain companies, they don't put in that effort because okay, well, this school or company is well known and they just automatically assume. So definitely put in the effort regardless of your
Absolutely. That effort and preparation really is key and makes all of the difference. And how should candidates respond to questions about gaps in employment? Colleen, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I think having a gap on your resume won't necessarily prevent you from moving successfully through the interview process. So don't be nervous about that, because we're all human. Things come up in life. Um, but the potential employer will expect an explanation of that time. So before your interview, take the time to work out how you can address that gap in a way that projects confidence and positivity. So if you were a part of a layoff or had to take care of a family member or something like that, again, we're all human, things happen. But you want to be truthful without going into like a ton of unnecessary detail. And you can always mention things that you did in a positive way to like keep up on the industry, or how you stayed in touch with colleagues, or how you've been preparing to re-enter the workforce. If you've done any freelance or consulting work, I would definitely mention that at that time as well.
So I would say honesty is the best policy. You can always explain your gaps without having to give exactly what happened and spinning it in a positive way. So, for example, if there was no growth at your company because you felt like that wasn't a good environment or you didn't have a supportive team, you don't need to mention that your team wasn't supportive. You can say, this company just didn't align with my goals and what I aspire to be in the future, and just leave it at that, without having to go into details. So again, be honest, but don't badmouth your previous company.
Well, I concur with Afia and Colleen. Really, for gaps in employment, life happens. Again, we are all human, and a lot of gaps are for very valid reasons. Caring for a family member or recovering from something yourself are all things that are so important in life. And employers want somebody that will help their environment and do this job well. And that's really the focus of the interview. I do know people personally that were out of work for a long time and are having really successful interviews and a reentry into the job market. And it's okay to say reentering the job market after some time away. Perfectly fine.
Definitely. And use a System 1 recruiter. They can help you go over how to, articulate your gap. And if you're experiencing a gap in employment right now, let this be assigned to you. Learn something new. Take a class. You can even take a class on LinkedIn Learn that's very affordable. So it's certainly not a missed opportunity. A lot can be gained from it. And how should candidates respond for reasons of leaving a previous job, especially if they were left on bad terms, such as a layoff or even being fired? Afia, we'll start with you.
Okay, so that's a really good question. My answer is going to be very similar to my previous answer, being honest without giving too many details. And I would say also asking questions within that question. For example, just asking questions about that company, just so that way you have a better idea, like, is this even a job that I really want to get into? So for example, if you left your previous job for a certain reason, I would just spin it in a very positive way, and then kind of ask that type of question to see if that issue is not going to occur again. I know, like, people do have problems at different companies and they may not be happy, but it doesn't always look professional when you badmouth the previous company.
Yeah, and I think that there's ways that you can spin it positively as well. So, for example, if you were part of a layoff, that's not something that you can control. But you can say that, you left with a lot of confidence, you developed a lot of important skills from that job, you built a lot of strong relationships. On the flip side, if you were fired or you left, you can say that you and the company had a difference in expectations. Maybe it didn't align with your career goals. So there's definitely a way to relay that information, but in a positive way.
Yep, I agree. Absolutely. I think just being honest without throwing anybody under the bus, you can never go wrong by taking the high road.
Absolutely. And it looks like we have a question from one of our viewers. Should we apply for positions that we are not perfectly qualified for, but we are positive that we are a good fit?
I say yes. I say, it's always good to keep your options open, and it's always an opportunity for you to connect with a recruiter and that we can find a position that you're perfectly qualified for. So if there's something you're interested in, I definitely say apply for it because you never know what could happen. Job descriptions can be flexible sometimes. So I definitely think if you're interested in it, go for it and apply for it and at least connect with us. That way we can help you find the right opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are so many opportunities out there that may have not hit a job posting. And it might be that your skills fit similarly into the role that you were aiming for, or something very similar that also would be a good fit. I would say when applying for something that you're not the perfect fit for, but you feel that you are, just maybe mention in your cover letter the skills that you feel could be the most transferable and why you feel that you're a good fit.
I definitely agree with both of them, because there's definitely times where a recruiter is looking for soft skills just as much as the hard skills, and that's with my current position right now. Like some people have the experience, but after speaking to them, I just don't think that personality wise they're going to be a great fit. So, if your goal aligns with that position and you may not have all the right skills, you never know. That client may actually want to interview you just based on your personality and your enthusiasm for that career.
I like it. That's great news. And how should candidates respond to questions about salary expectations? Melissa, we'll start with you.
Sure. I'd always be very honest with salary expectations. I think in the past, maybe talking about money seemed to be sort of a taboo subject, or people feel like they need to wait till the later in the interview process to discuss numbers. But really being honest with what your compensation is today and what your goals are and what your compensation needs are a really important factor for the job. Especially in contract staffing, our rates are set when we get the position in, and it's not going to change later in the process. So we're pretty firm about confirming all those numbers and making sure that everything fits not only on the candidate side, but also on the company side, because we don't want to go down a road and then have it not be a fit later in the process.
Yeah, and I think if you are working with a recruiter, you definitely need to be upfront with us about your salary expectations, because that's how we can identify the right fits for you. So if you've got flexibility, that's great. But if we discuss a specific rate with you or a specific range, be firm in what you're looking for, because if we don't want to get to the point of an interview or an offer and then, you kind of back out on that. And plus, we're skilled at negotiating the best offer possible for you. We want you to use the interview as your time to shine. So let us, kind of handle that negotiation of the salary. And just keep in mind that in addition to salary, there's a lot of other things that can go into kind of like your offer. So like benefits, PTO, stock options, things of that nature, 401k, all of that is definitely things to consider when kind of thinking about your salary expectations.
Perfect. And we have another question from a viewer. For recent grads with zero job experience, how do we go about standing out in interviews? Is there a way that we can leverage our education? Great question.
That's a really good question. You definitely can. So any experience that you had, whether it was a capstone project, whether it was organizations you joined at your school, talking about those projects, showing that you're a professional individual, you learn from that experience and how that experience can transfer onto the role that you're looking for. You can definitely land a great job. So a lot of it's about how you portray that message and how you basically talk about your experience in a professional manner. Because some people would just say, oh, well, I just joined a few clubs or organizations in my college, but there's nothing more for them to say. So make sure you have all of that down, especially if you learned even any softwares during any of your classes. Keep notes of that too. So those are really good points to do.
Yeah, I think IT programs in universities and any kind of training programs these days are really well aligned to provide students with what they need to stand out in an interview situation. Once you've graduated, it's important that you have your clubs, associations, and projects on your resume, your relevant coursework, and that you're prepared to talk about them. We had a new graduate program at one time where we hired numerous candidates for one of our big insurance clients. And we actually went through different projects. So I would say when you're interviewing, have your project details with you, because it really makes a big difference for not only us, but for the hiring managers when they can see the actual project that you did and how relevant it is to real world projects.
Yeah, I agree with everything Melissa and Afia said, and especially in the sciences, if you've had hands-on experience with a specific technique or instrument in your academic labs, a co-op, an internship, anything like that, come prepared with concrete examples of how you've used that. And just as a tip, I know a lot of people tend to put, things that they have academic knowledge of on their resume. I think that that's fine, but really what the managers are interested in is the concrete examples of hands-on experience. So I would definitely highlight that in any type of job description or description of what you've done in the past versus just the academic skills.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing we're getting a lot of questions about cover letters. So Anita wants to know, do you actually read the cover letters and what are you looking for in it?
I do read them. If they're too long, I tend to breeze through them. I mean, not get too detailed in it, but I do look for things like interest in, for instance, relocation, if there are any specifics about the individual's job search that are important and relevant to the position that we're looking for. And also what I'd be looking for is the things that make you think you stand out in relation to what what the job posting was for.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And our next question, how should candidates handle the final moments of the interview, such as asking questions and closing the conversation? Colleen, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think those final moments are really important. They're, kind of your time to ask any questions you have about the company or the job description. It's your time to get a better understanding of any detail that might affect your decision for accepting an offer. It's also your opportunity to show the manager how prepared you came. So the questions you come with are very telling in an interview. So I would suggest coming prepared with questions about, what are the manager's expectations for the role? What do they want to see in someone this time around versus someone who was in the role previously? What do they think the next 5 years of the, projects look like? You can ask about company culture, philanthropic efforts. So all of that just kind of shows that you took your time to prepare and did your research on the company, and that you're truly invested in this opportunity. So use those final moments to just kind of feel, how invested you are and to show the manager that you are a truly qualified candidate.
Those are some really good points. So this is actually my favorite question, and a favorite way to answer this is by asking, what's stopping you from hiring me today? So I can vouch for this question because this is something that I have personally used. And whether you get that position or not, you definitely get feedback. It is a scary question because right on spot, like you're asking the manager to criticize you in a positive manner. So asking someone, what's stopping you from hiring me today? Either way, A, it gives you an answer, okay, that you did really great, or there's no further questions. Or B, like you'll get some feedback. You can add that feedback, see how you can improve yourself for the next interview for the next company. And then of course another question is there anything I can clarify for you? Because there's a lot of times that recruiters / clients, hiring managers may have questions that you have not answered, but it shows that you're intrigued in this position and that you actually are interested in moving forward. So those are two questions I like to ask.
Yeah, I would just reiterate my interest and enthusiasm for the position and offer to be available for any follow-up questions should they come up after the interview.
I like it. And we have a few more good audience questions. Is it a good idea to move from a management role to a tech role as a way to stop the employment gap?
I'll answer this one. Well, I think that it's absolutely okay, especially if you still have your technical skills and you want to keep those up. I think being very flexible in a tough job market is very important. You would potentially run the risk of a company then seeing that you're out of management, depending on for how long. But I think it's just being flexible, but then knowing that what you put out there, or that your expectations might need to change on the other end when clients are reviewing a resume.
Absolutely. And what is a good way to learn about the company's culture if they have a revolving door, high turnover, etc.?
So I would say research, which I know sounds easier said than done, but definitely looking at Glassdoor and various different sites to see how that company culture is. And then nowadays there's a lot of stuff on social media. Like you would be shocked, but there are past employers that may talk about their experience in a positive or negative way, but that's another way to learn. And then networking. This is old fashioned, but communication is key. If you have multiple networks, if you're talking to multiple people, you can find out a lot more than you actually think. Just having conversations, saying, hey, I'm thinking to apply to so and that person may know a lot about that specific company or industry or manager. So those are the best ways to find out, I would say.
Perfect. And what is the best practice for following up after an interview? And how soon should candidates reach out? Afia, we'll start with you.
So I would say the best practice is definitely sending a thank you note. Just saying thank you for your time and talking, and then just reiterating your skills again on that thank you note. And then I would say candidates, so for the thank you note, definitely within 24 to 48 hours. But I think candidates should at least give recruiters a week, because a lot of times the clients may take longer than a week to reach out again. So at least give them 7 to 8 days, especially since they are working with multiple roles and multiple candidates at a time.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think people think a thank you note is a little outdated, but honestly, hiring managers respond really positively to them. So, if you're using a template or something you found online, just as a guide, that's great, but it's definitely good to kind of customize that to be more personal and kind of reflect the conversation you had with the manager. They definitely go a long way. And then just to, reiterate what Afia said, we are diligently following up for you. So, give the recruiter a little bit of time to get some feedback for you. Typically send that thank you note within 24 to 48 hours, but at least give us a week or a little bit more to get some feedback for you.
Yep, I agree with both. I would say, hands down, thank you note makes a wonderful impression. I would proofread it carefully for grammar, and even just checking your font. If you're emailing it, make sure it's all in the same font, and send that through your recruiter within, I would say, almost immediately after the interview, or within a few hours of the interview. But let us help you in that regard. As far as time frame for follow-up, everyone's a little bit different. I don't mind if someone checks in with me after a day or two just to see if we've heard any news, but in many cases, managers don't move quite that quickly. And it could be a week before we actually have closure on the position.
Absolutely. And what are some red flags you've seen from candidates during interviews that can harm their chances? Melissa, we'll start with you.
Sure. I would say disengagement within the interview process, a lot of chaos within the environment. For instance, if it is in a Teams situation, if the person didn't turn off their messaging or appears to have a distraction like another person in the room, or that they're being coached, those are immediate disqualifiers. We love kids, we love pets, but unless they're completely asleep and quiet during that time, just sequester them just for the time being, and just maintain engagement within the interview environment.
Yeah, I think some other red flags are just unprofessional appearance, especially like if you're on a virtual interview, we know you're in the comfort of your own home, but you still want to dress for success. I think also lack of passion or enthusiasm. So, on these interviews, they're not just looking for your technical background, they're looking to see if you're going to be a good fit on their team, if you're going to mesh well with the other individuals. So bringing that enthusiasm and confidence and passion in yourself is going to be key. And then I think just try not to reschedule or, come disorganized to the interview. Honestly, these managers have such tight schedules. If they suggest a date and time and you're constantly rescheduling on them, it just shows kind of like a lack of organization on your part and maybe a lack of interest in the position overall.
These are some really great points. Something I would like to add is being late. You're on Teams, you're at home, there's no reason to be late. One thing I always tell all of my candidates, please check your Teams prior to the interview. Don't wait till last minute and say, oh my gosh, I'm having technical difficulties, because it doesn't look professional. B, it just shows that you don't really care. People that actually care about the interview, I have seen them prepare very well. I have seen them hop on Teams at least 5 minutes before. And then of course, if it's on site, at least prepare enough time for traffic or any other issues you may run into. So at least being there about 15 minutes prior to the interview. It's the smallest, I guess, etiquettes that people tend to look at that really shows the type of person you are. You can have the greatest technical skills, but these are major red flags. Another one I see is as a recruiter, if we tell you not to discuss pay with the client because that is done through us, or any other advice that we give and you do completely the opposite, that is definitely a red flag to me, because I always discuss everything in details. Many of us do, and then you turn around and have certain conversations with the client. It looks unprofessional on both of our ends that we were not well prepared when we prepared you pretty well not to do those things.
Absolutely. Good insight. And I have one more audience question that I'd like to pull up. I would like to say I'm seeing a couple more questions about salary expectations. So you will be able to rewatch this LinkedIn Live where we covered salary expectations. We also have some fantastic LinkedIn newsletters that cover salary negotiations. So make sure you check out those resources, as well as past Sound Off with System 1 episodes on YouTube. So we have plenty of salary content there. Let's see. Our last question is, nope, sorry, I'm pulling up the wrong one, everybody. Here it is. Do you think LinkedIn Learning or similar certifications make enough of a difference in a candidate? Yeah, go ahead. I'll speak on that one last. I definitely have a strong opinion there.
I do. I think especially if you're going back to the gap in employment, I think it just shows a way that you've kept up on the industry. You've kept up on training for yourself. It's a way to, just kind of further your education. So I definitely think they're useful and can make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a total package. It really that makes the yay or nay from the hiring team, but any training certifications, especially those offered on LinkedIn, would be excellent to have.
I do too. And when you do these certifications on LinkedIn, they can go right to your profile. I also think it's beneficial to do it while you have a job, because it'll show that you're able to multitask. You might be able to increase your skills within the role. And when you're applying for a role later on, it will really help your chances. Perfect. All right, and we are out of time for today. I saw that someone arrived late. We are going to have recordings, like I said, so you'll be able to see this. You can view all of our previous Sound Off with System 1 episodes on YouTube as well. Again, we have a ton of info on interviews and salary negotiation. Don't forget to follow System 1 on LinkedIn if you're not already. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you tune in to Sound Off with System 1 every first and third Friday at 2 p.m. for more job seeker topics. Our next Sound Off with System 1 live stream will be Friday, October 4th at 2, and we'll be discussing education versus experience. We'll see you then.